Hi, I hope all of you are doing awesome. Today we're going to do another ghost story. So, this story is about a lady named Gogi. They moved to an area where she just came from India, and she had a son and a daughter. And her husband used to drive taxi, and so he brought them from back home from India. And she had two daughters, but she only brought one daughter. Her elder daughter was still in India because they couldn't bring so many people at the same time. It cost so much money. So, and then when she came, because they were coming, so he rented an apartment in a hurry, and he rented whatever he could find. And being a taxi driver, he didn't have that much money to rent a huge apartment. So then they rented this apartment just without knowing anything. About the background of the apartment. So she came and she moved in, and about a month or two she was there, and the whole time her husband was very sick. And then she became especially very, very sick, like to the point where she couldn't even walk, and she was extremely sick. And her daughter was little at the moment, and that time she didn't have a son. She had an older daughter, was back home in India, and she had the second daughter, and daughter was like 5-year-old or something, and she was also very sick too. But her Gogi's sickness was just to the extreme point where she couldn't even move. She had to hold the wall to get around inside her home. But when she came from India, she was just a beautiful, bubbly young lady in her 30s, because she had a big daughter. I presume she was married around 16 or 18, and then very early age. And then she had this daughter who was 16. So, yeah, she was around 35 or so. And her husband was around same 35, 40. So then she was extremely ill. She could not even go drop her child to the bus stop. Everything her husband used to do, and he was very sick too. And then, to make the long story short, they started asking around in the neighborhood, and then their neighbor was American neighbor. I mean, though she couldn't speak much English, but he didn't speak her language. But somehow he explained to someone who was an interpreter that the apartment they were living, there was an elderly guy used to live there, and he didn't have anybody, any family or anybody. So he passed away one night, and then nobody knew, because only thing he used to do is once a week come out and take a taxi and go do some groceries. So that's all people saw, and he wasn't very friendly or going around talking, and nobody ever came to his place. Only the landlord came to collect the money. So nobody's seen him for weeks. And then some people complained that there were very foul smell coming from the apartment. So the landlord came and knocked. Nobody opened, so he opened the door. And what they discovered was mind-blowing. They discovered that he has died about a week ago, and then the body exploded in the bed and was all over the wall everywhere. So they did a massive cleanup, and they cleaned everything out and painted and remodeled and everything. And then when the Gogis came, they just rented it to them without saying anything. So after that, whoever rented that, their life became ransacked. After the Gogis, they moved away, and then another person came, and his life was ransacked too. His life was totally destroyed, and he got married. His wife was extremely ill. She had to hold the wall to walk around, and then she also left and went back to her parents because she couldn't function there. So anybody moved into that place, their life, they came all happy, bubbly, beautiful looking, in their mid 20s, couple starting out, and by the time they left, they were totally ruined and shattered and had breakups and divorce. And the most of the cases, the women were not being able to even walk, to the point they were sick, and they didn't know what was wrong. They thought that's normal. But then it was every time somebody moved into that place, they had this horrible experience, almost near death, until they left from that place. Young couple, like young girls in their 20s, would be like near death in that place, and they wouldn't know what is wrong. So that was the true story, and it's something I have witnessed myself. And it's yeah, that's how it is wherever there. And the elderly person was sick for some time before he died, and he didn't have anybody. So that's how, the soul is there, ghost is there, and there's nothing lie about it. It's the truth. They're there, and it's somehow when they die in suffering, they cause suffering for other people, and unless somebody actively calls a priest and have that place cleaned, saged, and totally get rid of the spirit, then the most of the people who comes, they really suffer. So this is the true story for today's story, and I'll see you with many more. Bye bye.